Imagine yourself being amazing at something your entire life, and then all of a sudden everything is different. That's the situation Rafael Nadal is facing this spring. For years, playing on the red courts felt like home to Nadal. Sure, he lost some games here and there, everyone does, but he hardly ever had a bad game. He could push himself to the limit, the kind of effort that would knock most people off their feet for weeks. Despite that, he could wake up the next morning, ready to gear up and do it all once again. But those days seem to be over, and most likely will not come back. It's been nearly a year and a half since Nadal suffered a serious hip injury, and nearly a year since he had major surgery to fix it. It's been nearly 2 years since he was regularly playing professional tennis. Now each match and each day is like a test and a puzzle for Nadal. He has to figure out how much he can push himself, how long he can keep going, and how his body feels each morning when he wakes up, gets out of bed, picks up his young son Rafa, and steps onto the practice court and hits the ball for the first time. Rafael Nadal faced a big challenge in the fourth round of the Madrid Open against Jiří Lehečka, a young talented Czech player known for his flexible build and strong shots, qualities Nadal, known for his intense playing style, never really had. But the match wasn't really about their differences or even the score. It was more about testing Nadal's limits. Trying without doing anything too extreme, but I'm still trying, Nadal had said. This approach was evidence against Lehečka's 7-5, 6-4 victory over him, a match that lasted just over 2 hours. Playing a third set, given how things were going, might have been too much for Nadal under the circumstances. I never used to recover too badly after tough matches, even at 36 or 35 years old, said Nadal, who is now nearly 38. But today is a different story. It's not just about the injuries. The first issue is injuries, yes, but the second is that I almost never went 2 years without playing in tennis tournaments. Everyone knows what's at stake for Nadal. Trying to play at the French Open, a tournament he has won 14 times, with an incredible record of 112 wins to just 3 losses at Roland Garros. He isn't interested in just showing up for the applause, or to look at the 9-foot statue of himself outside Court Philippe Chatrier. He knows he still has the skills, but he'll only play if he feels his body can handle it. This is about playing matches that are 5 sets long on clay, which usually lasts 3 hours and sometimes more. His serve is slowed down due to injuries to his midsection, making it hard for him to win quick and easy points. He has to work hard for almost everything he earns. By the latter point of the second round in Rafa's 4th match at Madrid, 40% of Lehečka's serves were not returned, helping him keep his serve even as the crowd chanted "Rafa, Rafa, Rafa" every time he was about to serve. When asked how he managed the noise, the Czech player, ranked 31st in the world, could only blow out his cheeks and say, "I don't know. It's amazing for me to share the court with such a legendary player is a dream come true," said Lehečka. All the best to Rafa. It's kind of bittersweet to have such a nice win in front of all these people with everyone cheering for him. At the French Open, Nadal will have a day off between matches, unlike the quick 24-hour turnaround he faced from the 3rd match to the 4th match in Madrid. This tournament in Madrid has been his first real test in a long time of the back-to-back routine that tennis demands. Before this, in Barcelona, he couldn't keep up. He won a match but then struggled, losing the first set of his next match and couldn't recover. If he had pushed himself harder then, he might have ended up like he did in January, during a warm-up tournament in Brisbane before the Australian Open. There, he played too hard too soon and felt a minor injury when he went to bed. The next morning, an MRI showed it was a serious tear. He had to spend the next 3 months recovering and faced a lot of uncertainty during that period. Maybe this was the limit. Nadal could still swing a racket, but trying to match the intensity of top-level competition seemed impossible. The same was true for enduring an intense 3-hour training session. He just wasn't strong enough. But things were different in Madrid. His strength had returned. Although it was unpredictable, he still couldn't tell what would happen from one day to the next. It's unpredictable, that's it. And you need to accept the unpredictable things today, he said earlier this week. I need to accept that. In a way, Nadal has been preparing for this unpredictable situation for over 20 years, ever since doctors found a congenital defect in his foot that almost ended his career before it even started. He had to come to terms with a very uncertain future back then. Everything that came after was a bonus. This mindset led to what might be called Zen Rafa, the player who once likened an opponent's aces to rain, something beyond his control that he simply accepted. Now, he found himself back at the beginning, not just because he said Madrid is where he first felt, back in 2003, that he could compete at the highest levels. The moment when Nadal ran to the baseline from his chair, just one game from losing, and 12,000 people stood up, cheering loudly, shaking the metal building with their noise, that might have been the biggest victory of all. They cheered again at match point, and then chanted his name when he hit a backhand wide on what was likely his last match in the city. He described the night as a very positive in many ways, not just in sports, but also emotionally. It's been a gift to spend 21 years here, Nadal told the crowd during a celebration on the court after the match. The feelings of playing in Madrid on this court I'll remember forever. Despite accepting the uncertainty of what comes next and enjoying the affection from fans, Nadal is still making plans. He's getting into better shape with each match, aiming to pass each new test so he can aim for something special. Not just at the French Open, but beyond. The Olympic Games are also being held at Roland Garros. He hopes to at least play doubles there with Carlos Alcaraz, who is quickly becoming a favorite in Spanish tennis. Just last week, he agreed to play in the Laver Cup, a competition between teams from Europe and the rest of the world, created by his friend and rival Roger Federer. That event is scheduled for September. As the tennis season moves forward, everyone is hopeful about Rafael Nadal's preparations for what might be his last French Open. Despite his injuries, Nadal has shown glimpses of his old magic in recent games, raising hopes that he can shine one last time on the clay of Roland Garros. With fans around the world cheering him on, Nadal is set for a memorable performance at this famous tournament. It would be a perfect end to his incredible career if he could play at his best and maybe even win another Grand Slam title. As the French Open is here, all eyes are on Nadal, hoping he'll bring his well-known strength and passion to what could be his final big tournament.